everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I hope you're having a great Saturday and an amazing weekend so far. My name is Don Terrell, and I want to welcome you to another great episode of The Color of Motion, where I like to say, hey, stories come in all shades, and I highlight people of color and diverse backgrounds in the industry of motion graphics, animation, visual effects, cartoons, comics, and all that good stuff in between that you know I like and love. And after 6 years, hey, that's the way it is. You know the drill. Hop into the comments, say, hey, where are you tuning in from, and all that kind of good stuff. While I make sure that we are firing on all cylinders here. And I hope you are as excited as I am about today's episode. I've been looking forward to this all week. This is a little more in, we're going to dive a little deeper on the kind of business, social side, which I always like, marketing side, as opposed to just the creation side. So I'm looking forward to kind of diving into this episode here. As always, we're here every Saturday afternoon, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, live on the YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and the website and the Facebook group for the show. But I always encourage everybody to hop on over to the YouTube channel, get plugged in, because there everybody's able to connect and hit the bell notification, all that good stuff, so that when the show goes live and new content goes up on the channel, you're notified. Also, I said I was going to focus on the season as well, just supporting the channel. Not just, view. Of course, I appreciate you showing up and being loyal viewers, but just supporting monetarily definitely helps me to continue to create great content, continue to do the show, and all that, good stuff. Again, you can hop on over to buymeacoffee.com/Don Terrell and donate whatever you so choose to do. And who doesn't love a great cup of coffee? I do. I know I do. Also, if you're one of those ones that likes to just listen to audio, you can now find us on Spotify, some of the other audio platforms like iHeartRadio Music, and Amazon Music, and definitely check us out there. Definitely looking to grow the audio side of the show as well. So definitely hop on over there, download, definitely rate and review. That helps as well. Again, Spotify, all the other, Amazon radio stations as well. What else? What else? What else? Man, oh man. Season 6 has been on fire. And if you've seen like the recent posts of the guests that are going to be this month, man, today is just kicking it off for sure. And the rest of May is going to be just fire as well. And like I said, I'm super excited to be sitting down with my next guest here. I think I got all the kind of housekeeping stuff out the way, and we can kind of, get this ship blasted off here. What do you say? Huh? All right, we are back and we are ready to rock and roll. Again, I'm super excited about my next guest. She is an animator and entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience across animation, film, and video games. Throughout her career, she's contributed to projects for companies such as Disney and Netflix, including Cruella, Horizon Forbidden West, and the original IP Spice Frontier. Before starting her own business, she worked as a lead animator at Steamroller Animation, for all you that know Steamroller very well. no animation studio. Alongside this, she produced her short animated film, Leap of Faith, securing funding from Epic Games and Steamroller Animation. During the film's marketing campaign, she built a strong online presence in a community over 60,000 followers. Through a series of successful videos, she developed an engaged audience around the project. She then spent an additional 2 years in content space, focusing on short form video and strategies for audience growth and monetization, a very important thing in today's time, specifically within the animation industry. Today, she works as an entrepreneur and consultant, helping animators and studios use social media content to promote their projects, secure funding, attract clients, and build strong original IP. Everybody, please help me welcome my very special guest and friend, Miss Dragana Stamenkovic. Dragana! Thank you so much for joining me today on the Color of Motion. I've been looking forward to sitting down and having a deep conversation with you. I've been seeing what you've been doing as far as really educating, animators on just social media and using social media and just taking control of their own IP and content. So I knew I wanted to have you come on and really sit and talk about kind of today's time, where creators are going, uh, the opportunities for animators. You are were an animator and are an animator. I guess you'll always be an animator, but you worked in the industry as an animator, so you have obviously a particular point of view from an animator how they can leverage this time that we're in. Um, and we're going to dive into that. But I first kind of want to talk about your kind of animation kind of career. What kind of got you interested in animation in the first place? You know?
Oh gosh, that was a long time ago, 10 years ago when I first got into it. I was very interested in drawing, and I wanted to study acting at the same time. However, I wasn't good enough of an actress nor good enough of a artist.
Well, that's funny you say that because isn't an actor or isn't an animator basically
Yeah.
an actor, but not in front of the camera type of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting how it all came to be at the end. I wanted to go for a different college, but at the end, I ended up in animation that somehow combined those two loves. And yeah, slowly but surely, I started doing concept art for some game studios. And then I transitioned into a 3D generalist. Then I was a rigger and an animator, then just an animator. And then ultimately, my last position was as a lead. And once I started promoting my short film, Leap of Faith, that I spent the last 5 years into making with my team as well, who is amazing. And it's supposed to come out now in a month or two, so stay tuned for that. And
Awesome.
yeah, that's how I got into animation and how I slowly exited from it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. Well, I'm not gonna assume anybody can really tell where you're from, but tell us where you're from and your origin,
Yeah, I'm from Serbia.
Serbia. So, as
Yeah.
far as coming up, when you were, and I'm not sure if you kind of, you know, you said you always like to draw, but really thought about going into the industry later on, but just realizing did you see whether or not there was, I guess, a community there within Serbia that
Mhm.
people that you can connect with that, like the same things, was interested in the same things that you were interested in?
Yeah, it was a small community back then. It was just the industry was just starting to develop at the time. Now it's much better, I would say. But yeah, I was very lucky to be a part of that department. We were actually the first generation of people who were going to animation department. So yeah, it was a super exciting time, and yeah, it's booming now. So yeah.
Really, really, wow, wow. Oh, interesting, interesting. Everybody's just joining in. Obviously, we're having a fun conversation with my friend and guest, Miss Dragana Stamenkovic, uh, and former animator, now consultant, creative animation consultant. Um, where you know, for your animation, where did you get your kind of education for animation, or was it kind of self-taught and you just kind of worked your way into the business, or did you go to
No,
school?
I did my college, my bachelor in Serbia, and then after that, I did a whole bunch of courses, animation courses, mentorship. So yeah, it was bachelor, and then slowly upgrading as I went.
Well, I'm curious, how did your, you know, and I'm always, mindful of just people's support system and the people that they have
Mhm.
around them. How was your family in supporting your passion and what you wanted to do? Or were they thinking that this was maybe not kind of the most stablest of industries to kind of think about?
Mhm. Well, they were more supportive of animation than from drawing and acting, since animation was a bit more technical. And at the time, there was a stream of thought that IT people um, used to make a good living. So, animation, IT, that somehow made sense for my family. So, they were very supportive in that. So, yeah, I was lucky in that sense.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you kind of touched lot of portions of the animation, rigging, modeling
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
animating this and that. Is there one? Obviously, you're a lead animator at Steamroller, so animating. But was there any other thing that you kind of enjoyed doing, or really said this really isn't my thing for doing type of thing?
I enjoy all of it in the particular phases that I was in. So when I was a generalist, I was really enjoying doing motion graphic and Cinema 4D and modeling and kind of being in charge of whole process, not just one part. But then as I kind of overcame that, or it wasn't as interesting for me to learn more about it, I wanted to specialize more into rigging and animation. Then I shifted into rigging, and then I was super obsessed with at one studio that I work with, we develop a full Ziva system for simulating muscles and fat for creatures. So I was one of the lead riggers who was building that system for them. And wherever I went, I was trying to serve the studio the best I could. But then slowly over time, I noticed that I'm not interested in one topic for a really long time. I'm only focused for a particular amount of time, whether it's be a month or years, and then I shift to another
Yeah,
field. And that was kind of my whole animation career. And I think that's only natural. If you try to keep artists stuck in one area, I think that can only suck their creative juice over time and make them a robot, and that's not good for a company nor for the artist.
yeah.
So I was very lucky that I could move around but still stay in the same field. The moment when that changed, where I kind of went out of the animation, is when I started promoting my film and ventured more into content, which again is not that far away because it's still an art form in itself. It still includes storytelling, editing, pacing.
Yeah.
So it's literally a short film in 30 seconds. So all of my background in animation and all the sensibilities I gained from there all translate here as well. I also benefit from them here. So it was a smoother transition for me than it would be for someone who is a completely novice in content creation or writing. So yeah, writing is also really exciting for me now, and yeah, that's
Well,
how I
I
got here.
mean, now when you talk to younger creatives and younger animators, and the people that you speak to, are you encouraging them to kind of understand the whole pipeline in a sense, and plus the kind of business? I feel like that was kind of my rub with when I went to school. They didn't really teach me, art school. They really didn't teach you. kind of
Hmm.
the business or kind of the structure of, how to really run a run being a creative. You just, like I said, your
Hmm.
thought is just get a job, be a cog in the wheel, and go like that. And you don't really think about just the all the extra stuff that you hadn't had to worry about, because you were an employee of just the content, the marketing, of your own IP and your own idea.
Yeah, but it really depends. Where do you want to work and how do you see your future career as an animator or artist? If you do want to stay in the studio system, and again, depending on if you work for a smaller studio or a bigger one, if you're working for a smaller one, then yes, you need to know the better you know the pipeline, the better it's going to be for you and for the studio. But then as you move to a more specialized studio, your skill also specialized. So it's a trade-off. However, once you start freelancing or attracting clients through your content, then your whole mindset needs to change. And animation is only one of the not tiny skills, but one of the many skills you need to develop. Um, and content is one of the most powerful skills you can develop as a creative, because you get to learn the skill, how do you condense that super complex knowledge you have that's very technical but also creative into a 30-second short clip, into a carousel with 4 slides,
Yeah,
and make it entertaining, keep the attention, but also tell your story, but not too much. So there is a very delicate balance
it
in
is.
mastering that skill. But once you do, for those artists who do manage to stay for the long haul, they see tremendous benefits because they attract only clients they want to work with. They get to choose the projects they want to work on,
Yeah,
the type of people, they set the rate. Even in the climate like this one, when you build a brand for yourself, then clients come to you not only because of your skills, but also because who you are
yeah,
and what you bring to the table aside from your skills.
yeah,
And if you can communicate through your content the benefits of having you versus some other animator who has the same skills as you, then you're in advantage basically.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, and,
so
and
yeah.
this is a fascinating kind of conversation because, like I said, I've kind of had this conversation with other artists and this as well, and especially I guess in this kind of post post AI or just I don't know if it's post. We're kind of like in the middle of this kind of AI thing. I said my key word, for the year was reality. And you're starting to see a lot of creatives post their behind the scenes of what they're doing
Hmm.
to really
Hmm.
engage people in their content and social posts. Plus, to show them that, hey, I'm actually creating this. This isn't something that's AI generated.
Yes.
This is the process I go through to create this piece of artwork. So, do you see that as the trend moving forward? Of where, like I said, you got more artists that are showing the behind the scenes of what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if we were in 22, like 20 years ago or so,
Yeah,
then you could treat your Instagram as your portfolio. You could just upload your art, not just because of the AI. AI is just a cherry on top, but there were a lot less people on social media, and social media was more social. You
yeah,
could still see pictures of your friends going to a vacation, your mom watering plants and stuff like that. But now it's a lot more media-like, and artist needs to basically swim through the crowd or swim through that saturated market and really learn the skill. How can they be visible online? So yeah, showing the process of how they work, showing the final work as well, but also showing parts of themselves, like what are their values, philosophies, telling some client stories, which is all the reason why a certain client might pick you over someone else. Maybe you know how to fix a certain pipeline issue that's really potent for them.
yeah,
And once you start building your online brand online, you position yourself as someone who can solve their problem and not just an animator who uses Maya to animate creatures. So it's a completely different
Yeah.
mentality. Um, so
Which they're
yeah,
saying it comes
definitely.
down to, for them, it comes down to problem solving. Are you solving the
Mm-hmm.
problem that I have
Yeah.
with the skills that you've got? And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Well, are you finding that that's the struggle most artists or people that you're talking to have? They're having a hard time finding this balance of how to present themselves, because you get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of artists, and I get this too when I approach people to want to be guests on the show. I don't like being on camera. I don't like, all I want to do is just sit and, they don't want to show their personality. Do you feel like it's going to take
Mm-hmm.
showing a little bit of your personality to give you that edge to where somebody that's just showing, their skills and what they do type of thing?
From working with my students and my clients, I didn't see that as big of a problem. I saw something else. And that is, they're very afraid of what their studio might say and think. A lot of them are in
Mm,
big studios that don't
yeah.
allow people to do stuff on the side. So they either need to hide behind faceless formats or find other ways to showcase their projects. And that's really having a way less result with building their audience and having a reach for their projects. So there is a clash there. Another problem I saw is artists go on social media and they post their work. However, with animated content, it can fall very quickly into the entertainment trap. So they suddenly get views and reach, and their animations go viral, and they're all excited. However, that type of content doesn't always bring clients. So they get a little bit addicted on the dopamine side of social media, and when they get those few hits with their videos, but they realize really quickly they attracted the wrong audience. So you need to shift. Your content literally changes depending on who you're speaking to and who your audience is and what goal do you want to have at the end. So you can be the same animator, but one animator can aim for clients, another animator wants to monetize through art shop on Etsy, and a third animator wants to promote their short film and passion projects. They all have the same skills, but their content is going to look very differently. So yeah, that's the problem. What else did I saw with my students?
Well,
Mm, yeah.
how so would, okay, so just give one example of their content approach for each one of them. What, say, like
Mhm.
one content approach for each one would be, and the difference between each of them.
Mhm. So, for example, I had one student who was an Unreal artist, and he was doing sports content. And his sport content featured a lot of the popular athletes, which is great to use as a trend hop and as a way to showcase your skills. However, if you focus on content on just them, he used to do realistic renders, and he would post realistic renders of popular athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and the audience, the average viewer, couldn't tell if this is a 3D or not, if this is maybe an AI or a real footage or not. So you need to showcase either a split screen or something, again, the process behind it, that this is 3D. And not only that, but you're offering that skill, so it needs to be in the description somewhere. Hey, this is the project I work on, these were the challenges, this is how I solved it, and so on. So it needs to be very clear what the job of this post is. It cannot be just a footage of famous athletes and then having some motivational speech, because that falls into entertainment
Mm-hmm.
video, entertainment content. So it's very different.
Yeah.
And sure, people who would then maybe click on his profile, and additionally, his profile didn't communicate clearly that he was an artist for hire. It was positioned as a hobbyist account. So imagine a client who, by the way, has a lot of options in today's day and age. A lot
Yeah.
of people already sit in his list, and he can just choose Who can they
Pick and
pick?
choose. Yeah.
So imagine a client who is super busy and has a lot of options, and then they land on your page, which is not very clear. How much effort do they think is they're gonna invest in order to fight to get to work with you?
Yeah.
Zero. They're
Yeah.
gonna bounce. So your account needs to be so optimized and clear for the person you want to serve and how do you want to monetize. So they know exactly, oh yes, this is for me. No, this is not for me. I'm out. So that's something we worked on together, and now his content looks completely different. He has way less reach in terms of views, but he's very specifically targeting just clients who are looking for generalist Unreal artists,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even niche who are looking for sports content.
Yeah.
That's super niche.
Yeah.
But again, uh, they have 100% chances of finding and hiring him than someone on LinkedIn who is positioned as a 3D generalist and has all sorts of things in his demo reel and doesn't have a personal brand and
Yeah.
referrals and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's not just client who scout your social media platforms, it's all the other artists in your network who can refer you to someone else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's extremely important how you position yourself.
Well, are you finding that people are kind of worried about, I guess, the state of the industry? Is that a thing that you're hearing as well?
Yeah.
And kind of getting talk about how, heck, what studio was that? Was it Netflix that just laid off? Let go. One of those studios that just might have been Disney that just had a layoff. But just the whole
Yeah, I
thing
mean,
about,
every
just
month there is something.
yeah, there's every month there's a studio doing it. But is that a talk that you're hearing as well? And what are your thoughts as far as just a creator coming up now, not only
Mm,
having to deal with studios closing and shutting and projects getting shut down, but again now you're not just competing with the student that you graduated with, you're competing with people all over the world now. So the pool of
mhm.
people, like you were just mentioning about the friend, he's got a pool of people that he could choose from. So do you find that that's a talk that is kind of on creators' minds or people's minds that you're talking to, is just the climate of the industry now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of stories from my colleagues and from my circle of animator friends. A lot of people who were on a higher positions like art director or senior animators are taking a role that's one step beneath them. So an
Yeah,
art director would take a job of a senior animator, and a senior animator would take the role of a mid animator. And clients don't have the budget for, I don't know, 20 mid animators, but they shrink it to maybe 10. And suddenly you have a smaller team, you don't need as many leads, you don't need as many supervisors. So overall, the whole climate is shifting to more content but less quality, which means you don't need as highly skilled people. Now, this doesn't mean that high quality content will disappear. That's not what I'm
yeah,
saying. I'm only saying that it will exist, only the entry bar and the doors to those projects are going to be even narrower. So you need to be so good at your craft for someone, or to have a really good referral a network for someone to let you in on a project like that. However, on the other side, since the whole industry is shifting into creator space, any animator who figures out how to do content and who builds any audience that he can monetize, they figure out, okay, there's an alternative path here as well. I can still use the same skills, only serve a different audience.
yeah,
And I think now this is where we are now, where animators are seeing an alternative, non-traditional path. It will take some time to learn the skill and build a loyal people around you, but if you offer the right service or the product, it can definitely happen. For me, At first it was just a side income while I was still having my full-time job, but now it's my full-time income. It's my full-time business. I can fully live off because I learned the skill of content creation and how to help someone else use it for themselves as well.
So when you
Uh,
say now you can live off that, is it the consulting, or is it the social or the monetization of your social channels, or is it all of it? When you say now I can, I've learned that, so now I can not only make money off of the social content, but now I'm
mhm.
doing client work and project work or consulting work with other animators, and that's bringing in revenue as well.
Right. So I'm monetizing in two ways. I'm offering one-on-one consulting services for animators and studios, but I also have my group program that I'm launching a couple of times a year. And yeah, monetizing through content itself on Instagram, that's almost non-existent. Why? Because Instagram, compared to TikTok, for example, who does offer a creator program and monetization through their videos, if you surpass 1 million views and if your video is longer than a minute, plus if you are a specific country and if you don't violate the rules, so there are a lot of caveats. how,
Yeah, a lot
how
of
can you
hoops.
actually monetize on TikTok? Instagram doesn't have that. Why? Because it's filled with brands. Instagram is like a giant market and a hub for brands, where brands come in and they pick, which artist or which creator do I want to promote my thing. So artists on Instagram earn mostly through brand collabs, affiliate links, or promoting their, again, product
Yeah.
services. But yeah, or just finding clients like animators can.
Well, and I had posed this question. I often pose this question, and I guess it's something I've kind of been at least been noticing, or at least seems to be the thing. Do you feel like creators now have to be these kind of multidisciplinary things where they're not just making revenue?
Mhm.
Obviously, like you said, you can't just make a straight living off of social. Well, I guess you know well, you're not just off of the social ads. I mean, that brings brand deals, that brings other things that I mean, as far as just they're having to do different things, whether it's a course, whether it's training, whether it's consulting, teaching.
Mhm.
You see a lot of I see a lot of animators that are working in studios now that are promoting their animation courses. They're
Yeah.
teaching, kids. So as far as creators now figuring out, like you saying, they're
Mhm.
having to do a lot of different things to kind of bring in this revenue if you're not, working at a studio, or figuring out that that's kind of an up and down kind of thing, or hit and miss kind of thing. Are you starting to see creators start to think about what are all the channels or all the lines that I could put out there for my IP or
Yeah.
my ideas to generate
Yeah.
revenue?
Definitely. When it comes to monetization aspect, teaching services and the model I chose is just one of the models you can opt out for. Another model is building your audience slightly bigger so you can monetize through lower ticket products
Yeah,
like art shops, Etsy keychains, clay toys. So it depends how big your audience is. The bigger the audience, you can offer a lower ticket product. The smaller the
yeah,
audience, the higher ticket the product. You can definitely do a mix of both. Now it depends how your content strategy looks like and how everything is designed, but you can do both. What I advise, I just have one student who is doing exactly that model. She wants to monetize through her art shop, and she's an animator, and she has all sorts of interest on the side: drawing, sculpting, clay modeling. And we want to design a model for her while she's still in her stable job, so she can build a safe arc if something happens, just so she has something on the side. And you do that by building content, growing an audience slowly until
yeah,
you reach a point, okay, now I have something, I can actually either step away from my job, or I can keep it and just have this income on the side.
yeah,
And a third model is definitely through animated IPs. It's also aimed at lower ticket product, but it can also be aimed at coaching as well, especially for studios. So animated content has a potential to have those multi-million views, like 5, 10, 20 million, something my content will never have because the niche is super narrow. While animated content who serves general audience and it doesn't have a language barrier, anyone can understand it and anyone can relate to it. So once you have such a strong fan base, then you can have like a Tesco or like Walmart, a lot of the small products which a mass of people will buy.
Yeah. I
So
think,
those are kind of the three main models I see. Now, of course, they can be mix and match depending on some
yeah,
people want to do a mix of clients and then a mix of merch. So it depends.
but you're not, you per se aren't really worried about this whole thing of, generative AI taking the place and jobs of other creatives and this and that. I mean, you're starting to see it come up in a lot. I guess every app, every company is trying to
Hmm.
figure out how can they
Right.
incorporate, AI into this pipeline or their thing.
Right. I mean, it's already taking some job, not to the extent we are yet to see. That's my personal take on it. I think we are yet to see the full impact on it on our industry. It's just starting to roll out. But I've listened to an interesting podcast about the whole democratization of animation. How 100 years ago, in the era of 2D animation, you had to learn human anatomy, you had to learn how to draw, and then you had years of training to become an in-betweener, and then maybe if you were lucky at the end of your career you get to be a key artist. And then women couldn't draw, women could only be an outliner artist or in-betweeners, but they couldn't be the key artist. But then when 3D came about, when computer animation came about, a lot more people could suddenly use it, and the ramping curve was shortened, which means a lot more people could become animators, which means we had a lot more content. And whenever you have something more and in abundance, that becomes cheaper. So if one washing machine costs, I don't know, I'm gonna say a crazy amount, $1 million to make, then that washing machine is gonna cost, I don't know, 2 millions or something like that. But if you can make a washing machine in a day with the cheap production cost, then suddenly washing machine costs $500 and
Yeah.
everyone can have one. So it's what I feel is happening with animation as well. And with AI, suddenly everyone can become an animator. And the only metric you are competing with my neighbor who can animate the same thing as me, who learned it for 10 years, is the level of stories you tell, the quality of stories you tell, and the micro community and subcultures you form around you. Because you don't need a gigantic audience, you don't need viral videos at all. You just need to find a small subculture
Yeah.
around you, around your stories and characters, and monetize that. That's
Yeah.
really it.
Yeah. What do
um
they say? A
so
thousand true fans is all you really need to make a living. Is a thousand fans that
I
really
mean,
support
even
you,
less. Honestly, I have again 60,000 followers, and only I don't know, less than 1% is actually
supporting
buying
you.
my
Yeah.
consulting and programs, and I'm able to make a full-time living off of it. So it's not like, and I'm an exception in that sense that I grew my audience first and then monetize it. But I'm in a community of women and people who have up to 1,000 followers, and they're earning 100K, 200K a year. So it's not about, again, the virality. The only reason why I went that route, because my first goal was raising awareness for my film. So I learned that aspect of it. But if I was starting tomorrow on social media, I would just make content that has 500 views, but it's monetized in some way. And I think that's completely doable for anyone who dares to try it.
So anybody just starting out, how would you say they need to start out? Like how often posting, is, all those little
Mhm.
nuances they tell you, times and this and that. What's your kind of top bit of advice that you would say,
Mhm.
that one thing that you would say that
So
somebody
for
just starting.
anyone, so for anyone just starting out, first I would be very clear on my goal. And then I would learn how to create content that's very optimized for that goal only. And then I will post every day for at least 3 to 4 months until you get the sense of what's working and what not, what type of audience and topics are resonating, what type of topics and themes are resonating with your audience. And then I would slowly, incrementally double down on that until you find like 5 to 10 evergreen topics that you can recycle forever and forever and forever, and only become better and better at content creation and better solver for your audience's problem. That's kind of the goal. For me now, I have a really large volume of content and I know exactly what topics, I mean, they're all the same topics, but what angle am I specifically targeting? So they're like, oh, yes. But if I say it just slightly differently, they're like, yeah, crickets. So it's really a game of volume and then analytics, iteration, learning all of that to figure out what song should I sing to my audience?
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you find that that's kind of what just the whole enormity of all of that? Because again, I tell people, I mean, just creating the content is enough in and of itself, creating the content, but then you do the social, creating the posts and all of that stuff. Do you
Mhm,
find the overwhelm of just
mhm,
having when you talk to, the people that you're consulting or talking to,
mhm.
that it's the overwhelm of having to do all, especially if you don't have a team, you know, type of
Yeah.
thing. It's different if you got a team of people or if you got the funds to hire somebody to do that for you. But when you don't, figuring
Mhm,
out that one thing, okay, what do I need to focus on, and what channel do I need to focus on? Again, how much content do I
mhm,
need to pump out? How much content can I realistically pump out myself? Because I think
mhm,
that trips up a lot of
mhm.
people as well, thinking that
Yeah,
it's an easy thing to
yeah.
do.
Part of the reason why it's overwhelming because artists came from an art background and they put a lot of effort into editing, pretty colors, pretty fonts, overthinking over one piece of post, and they think the quality of content is how pretty it is and how um, they treat it almost like a short film they are now submitting for Emmys, and everything gets almost like you are gonna put that content for dailies, and an animation supervisor is gonna scrutinize it. And what I learned over time that what you have in your mind as a quality is not the same as audience has in their mind. So some of my best performing contents were made in 15 minutes because I knew exactly how to target my audience's problem. Another best performing content is the content that came from talking with my audience and using their words. And I since I built a system and everything where I could just plug and play everything, it's almost out of automatic. And for me, that my job is content creation, even I don't create every day. I had to limit myself up to 4 to 5 hours a week in order to post every day. But for artists and animators who come to me, I tell them you shouldn't spend more than 2 hours a week on it, and you should have like 5 times a week content to post, and that's enough to start. And I want the reason why I'm pushing for so much frequency is precisely that, so you don't get noodling one post, and it's more like the volume. Let's see, first you need to find out what do you like to create. Maybe what I realized with my own content, I was very good at one particular format with on Instagram, in one particular style of storytelling. However, with time, that became a lot for my energy and it burned me out. So I was either I'm going to quit this or I'm going to find another way to find a format and styles that works for me now. So it's also about that, finding which format works for you, what resonates with your audience, and what can you be the most consistent with, because that needs to become an automatized machine that helps your career, not something that becomes your full-time job. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No. So really awesome words. For sure to be mindful of. Don't want to make another job for yourself, and I don't want to leave you out as well. We're having a fun conversation, sitting down talking about kind of the ins and outs of managing um, your social content and creating a brand for yourself, particularly in animation, but it could translate just to any entrepreneur that's building a brand, what you should be focused on. Sitting here having a fun conversation with a friend and guest, Dragana Stamenkovic, former. Do you like saying former animator? I guess you're former
Yeah.
animator now,
Yeah, for my
creative
animator.
consultant. Where are you obviously said now you're able to sustain yourself and build a revenue with consulting. So that obviously says to you that a lot more people now are really wanting to take, I guess, more control. A lot more creatives, animators now are wanting to take control and are thinking about their own kind of content creating. And I've also found that even the ones that I've interviewed, the friends that I've had on interviewed, that are working at studios, they're still
Mhm.
working on their own projects, their own side projects type of thing. So are you starting to see more and more people come to you saying, "Hey, I want to learn how to really, promote my brand, create content that speaks to this audience that I really do want to do work for."
Yeah, I see two shifts happening with my audience and animators in the industry, and that is they're slowly starting to realize that once what was once considered a stable job is not anymore, and they're shifting to be more to count more on themselves than to others to support them. So that's one part of my audience. And then another part, for example, the ones who don't want to switch jobs or careers, but they work for years and years on their short film and passion projects, like I was on mine. And by the time it is done, they kind of get frustrated that nobody sees it.
Yeah.
So they want to use social media to promote it, to get more eyes and opportunities from it. So yeah, those are like two main types of people that come to me.
No, well, as we, I'm being, kind of respectful of your time because I know it's, like where you're at, and this has been rolling pretty good. Um, for you, as we kind of close this out and bring this in, what's been kind of the best piece of advice that somebody's kind of given you that's kind of helped you throughout this journey that you've done and gone on so far?
Mm, there's so many. I don't know. I think the best advice is kind of mindset I got from was from my business coach, and she always kind of taught me to follow more my energy and to create when I'm really called to create, because that's when my best content comes out. Of course, I cannot only count on that. I need to have systems in place when I don't feel motivated to create. But in general, I'm trying to create a business and a life that doesn't, where I don't need to force myself to create when I don't feel like. That was kind of the most painful part of my job, especially at the end of my career. There were times and months where I really wasn't in the good mindset to create and to be focused for 8 hours and to be in a crunch time. And now I'm grateful that I don't have any of that, that I can design a work week and work hours how I want to work.
Yeah.
So that's what's been really the biggest blessing to trust myself in terms of I know that I'm driven and determined, and that will come out. And for anyone who has an ounce of that, and a lot of people who come to me are exactly like that because they pour so much of their time and energy into their passion projects on the side. If they have that determined line in their character, they will succeed no matter, doesn't matter if they're in a studio or not, because that will drive them to their success. And that's what I found in my life as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been really grateful to find the support around me, and without it, I wouldn't have this business. I wouldn't have built this life. If I have kept my money and not invested it, I would still be. I will now be. Now I would be applying to 100 different studio jobs and
Yeah.
competing with other animators, accepting the rates I'm not comfortable with. So yeah, what I found is that we always need to sacrifice a part of ourselves in order for something better to emerge. So
Yeah, no, I mean that everybody now wants that instant gratification, rather than sacrificing a little now. And before I bomb on this, uh, but was that so? Just a couple more questions before we kind of wind it out. Was that getting a coach? Was that your first
mhm,
investment when you say, investing in myself and making this decision to make that
mhm,
switch? What was the first, step that you took, an investment
mhm,
that you made when you made that step from, okay, I'm
mhm.
leaving this job and I'm going to focus on
Mhm.
this?
Well, at first, I was investing heavily into marketing programs and courses and education. That was at a time where I was just doing purely for fun. I didn't plan to make this into a full time living. But once I saw a real opportunity from it, that's when I hired a business coach. Um, and yeah, and started investing more serious amounts into other types of coaching, more into copywriting, and more depth and nuance into content. Because no matter how good things are, I somehow always see I need to see a year ahead of from now. And if I don't invest, my content is going to become stale, my mindset is going to become stale, and social media is changing so fast.
Yes.
And it's so interesting. So yeah, it was first the marketing education, and then I was like, okay, I have some skills now. How do I combine that with animation? What product exactly? What price? How long should it be? So that's why I needed a coach. And then, of course, I needed a psychotherapist, and I
You
think
said
she was a life
you
coach.
said a psychotherapist?
Psychotherapist, yeah.
Oh,
Because with social media, why I'm calling myself coach and not a consultant as much, because with social media strategy and improving your skills is just one side of it. What I've seen with my students is they have psychological blocks. What were their colleagues are going to say, what the studio is going to say. I feel uncomfortable speaking in this way. So, all of these are such huge polygons for growth. And once you overcome those, yeah, you're going to be so much freer and your content is going to be so much fresher on social media. And it's very difficult to do that all alone.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, what do you? Uh, I keep coming up with these questions. What has been? What would you say the time span, general time span that you see
mhm,
your students, the people that you work with,
mhm,
kind of make that transformation,
mhm,
and the changes that they need to make? Kind of how long
mhm,
when they ask you and approach you? Usually, you say, "Hey, it's going to take some time to invest, for
mhm.
you to make this kind of switch." That they start
Right.
to see or start to believe
Mhm.
in what you're saying and the changes that are starting to happen.
Right. So my program is like 1 month of coaching for everyone who just want to get the information how to get started, and some coaching calls in between for me to support them and give them guidance so they're equipped. If they want to continue on their own, they can do so. And I intentionally structured it that way because I wanted to be affordable for the biggest for the
For the
for
masses.
more animators as
Yeah.
possible. However, to see any type of result and real transformation, 3 to 4 months is minimum. And that's why I have an upsell program for anyone who wraps my initial program. So it's like a two-part program that extends into a 3 months. But ultimately, after that, I mean, I'm 2 years into content and I'm still learning. So it's like a life thing,
Yeah.
just like animation. You will sure learn how to do a shot after 3 or 4 months, but after a decade, I was still learning. So it's not about um, it's about the depth of application.
Yeah, yeah, and you're always, like you said, learning. Um, Again, this has been an amazing episode. It had so much fun, and definitely can't wait to have you back on, Adriano, for sure. And all of her course information will be in the show notes, but definitely get connected with her on Instagram. You can find her on Instagram, connect with her on LinkedIn. That's how I connected. Check out her YouTube channel and all that good stuff. Again, her program information and everything will be in the show notes so that you can enjoy as well. Dragana, I can't thank you enough for coming on and having a little bit of conversation. Definitely know, appreciate you taking the time out to do that, because I know the massive time difference and everything, but I cannot thank you enough for, coming on and sharing, your vast wisdom in really creating and using social media and building a brand and an IP, because I feel like it is, I'm important. I'm a big, IP person and intellectual property, and I know the creator is at the heart of everything, and we are the ones that are
Mm.
creating. And so, the value is there with what we create, and we should
Yeah.
realize that.
Thank you so much for having me, Don. I really appreciate the space for yeah, giving me to talk about these topics. I could talk about it for hours, but yeah, it was super fun getting to know you and chatting about social media. But yeah, I love
Definitely.
the podcast initiative, and I love some of the guests you had on. I enjoy listening to them. So yeah, keep on doing them.
Well, it's all about value and sharing value and building relationships. And again, everybody, uh, check out, if you just checking out, if you're just coming in, jumping in, make sure you go back to the beginning and check out this, because Dragana dropped a lot of gems. Definitely take notes, because I was, well, I got the recording, so I can always go back. I can always go back and watch, but definitely make sure that you get connected with her and follow her content. I am. She's definitely dropping a lot of gems with the people that she talks to and the videos that she shares and drops. So, again, thank you, Dragana, for being a part of the Color Emotion family, coming on and
Thank
joining
you.
us, and cannot thank you enough. If you could hang on for just 1 second
Mhm.
while I
Mhm.
close out the show, I'd appreciate it. But everybody, again, let's give a big thank you to Dragana for coming on and blessing us with her presence. Hold on, Dragana, while I close out the show. Everybody, this has been another great episode. Of course, like I said, season 6 is been on fire, and we've been having some amazing guests. And like I said, today Utah was no different. Next week is going to be no different as well. Super, super, super looking forward to next week's guest. It's going to be a fun one. Going to welcome our guest and friend, Mr. Sarp Serger, animator with ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. He does some fun animation there. So we're looking forward to having a fun conversation with him. So definitely, if you're an animator, you don't want to miss out on that. But I appreciate you giving me a little bit of your time this weekend. Cannot thank you enough, as always, for being loyal viewers and passionate followers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Make sure you have a great rest of the day, great rest of your week, and a productive one. I will see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Cheers, everybody.